for Edmonton Highlands Norwood, followed by the Honourable Member for Lacombe-Panoka.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Over the weekend, the Minister of Culture and Community Spirit admitted that evolution was science, and he said his government isn't arguing science. But, you know, Mr. Speaker, despite all of the protestations from the other side about what they're not doing, we need to remember that it was the Premier himself who said that evolution would be optional if parents objected on religious grounds. This isn't a fantasy of the opposition. This comes from the Premier. So I want to ask the Minister of Culture and Community Spirit, have you and the Premier figured out why you're contradicting each other and why the message we're getting now is so much...
The Honourable Minister.
Well, Mr. Speaker, I know one thing. I don't pretend to speak for the Premier. What we have here is the legislation that's clearly stated, and I refer to that. What the legislation that I brought forward, subject matter that deals explicitly with religion, sexuality, or sexual orientation. If you have a question about what the Premier said, I suggest that you ask the Premier that question.
The Honourable Member.
Well, I keep trying, Mr. Speaker, but the Minister knows that those things are subject to interpretation. So it is the interpretation of what is religion that is at stake here. And will he stand up here and settle this matter once and for all and say that evolution is not considered religious grounds and will not be enforced by this government, and make sure that the Act is amended to say that?
The Honourable Minister.
Well, Mr. Speaker, I know my English is pretty good, and I did say that subject matter deals with religion. Evolution is not religion, neither is math, neither is English. I can't be more clear than that. Ask a court, ask anyone to determine where evolution becomes religion.
The Honourable Member.
Well, Mr. Speaker, the Premier's interpretation and his Minister's interpretation are clearly very different things. So the question is, will you change this Act, will you amend it to ensure that there can be no misinterpretation such as we've seen from your Premier, your leader?
The Honourable Minister.
Well, Mr. Speaker, as you had alluded to last week, we haven't even had debate on second reading on this particular motion. We'll have a lot of chance to discuss it, and we'll see what comes out of that. And I tell you what, speaking of misinformation, I'd love for the opposition members to actually stick to the facts, what's actually written here, not their flights of fancy and their ideas of fiction.